Okay, so I just wanted to share some ayat of Quran again. Right, these ayat speak about giving, and you'll find this ayat in the Quran chapter 2 from verses 261 onwards. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. The example, the similitude of one who spends their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain which grows into a tree bearing 7 ears of corn. Right? On each ear of corn there's 100 grains. So Allah is telling us here an example, a similitude, to describe to us the return on investment that a person who spends in the way of Allah can get. Right? And he's saying that it's like one seed of grain from which you get a tree with 7 ears of corn. On each ear there's 100 grains. So that's, if you do the math, you'll see that 700-fold increase that a person who spends in the way of Allah can get. Wallahi da'ifu liman yasha. Allah gives manifold increase to whomever He wills. Wallahu wasi'un alim. And Allah is all-encompassing and all-knowing. So here Allah gives assurance that He is able to fulfill this claim. Right? He gives to whomever He wills, and the person who spends in His way can get 700-fold increase. Right? Return on investment. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah then do not follow up with reminders and injury. Right? For such people is a reward from their Lord, and there shall be upon them no fear and no grief. So here we see that there are conditions to this giving. Right? That to get that assurance of a reward from your Lord, you're not supposed to follow up with reminders and injury. Because there are some people who do this. They give and then they remind people of what they give to them, or they cause harm, whether by words or deed, to the people to whom they give. Right? Sort of as if they are establishing their superiority over those people who they give to. Right? Allah is saying that if you do not do this, right, then you have that assurance of a reward from your Lord, and there shall be upon you no fear and no grief. قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. Allah says that kind words and the covering up of faults, right, or forgiveness, is better than charity followed up by reminders and injury. And Allah is free of all wants and forbearing. Right? So it's better that you say kind words to a person, right, and you forgive people, than you go about giving. Right? Than you go about giving and then following it up with reminders and injury. Right? So this practice is discouraged in the Quran here. Right? And we learn more about it in the next ayat. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. O you who believe, do not cancel out your charity with reminders and injury, like the one who gives, who spends their wealth only to be seen by men, and they do not believe in Allah and the last day. The example of such a person is like a rock upon which there is dust, and there comes upon that rock a downpour, or a shower of rain, leaving it bare. Right? Think of that. We are given another mathal, another example here that we can reflect on. Think about, visualize that rock upon which there is dust, and there comes straight a shower leaving it bare, washing off all the dust. لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا. They have no control whatsoever over what they earn. والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. And Allah does not guide a disbelieving people. So clearly we see here that that Allah is the one who gives increase to whomever He wills. We know He is the provider. Everything we have is from Allah, right? And that person who spends their wealth only to be seen by Allah, seen by men and to impress men, right? They are like that rock on which there is dust, and they come straight a shower, leaving it bare, right? So they're not getting the blessings for what they're doing, right? Just as that rock is left bare, we see that, you know, this is the example of the person who spends only to be seen by men, and they're not doing it for the sake of Allah, right? So Allah is directing us towards sincere intentions here when we are giving, so that we can receive that reward from Him. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ فَآتَتْ أُكُلُهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلٌّ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And the example of those who spend their wealth seeking the pleasure of Allah and seeking to strengthen their own souls is like a garden to which comes a downpour of rain, causing the garden to have a double produce, right? And if there is no downpour, the garden is contented. So think of this mathal, this example that Allah presents of those who spend seeking the pleasure of Allah and to strengthen their own souls, right? That garden, when there's that favorable condition of the downpour of rain, there's double produce, right? And if there's no downpour, the garden is contented. Such are the people who spend seeking the pleasure of Allah, that there's no discontentment, that even if there's no favorable conditions, right, such as with the garden with no downpour, they are contented. And when there is, you know, when there are favorable conditions, there's a double produce, right? So the good times are extra good, right? And when times that people would consider unfavorable, you know, such people are contented. I think of that. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And Allah is all-seeing of whatever you do. So He is all-seeing of whatever you do. He is able to say this, right? Because He knows what the people who, you know, spend in the way of Allah, seeking the pleasure of Allah, He knows what they are like, right, and how they feel. And He knows what the insincere people are like and how they feel. So He's able to make this claim and to tell us this, right? So let's seek to be of those people who spend in the way of Allah, seeking the pleasure of Allah, and to strengthen our own souls. أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ لَهُ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ ثَمَرَاتٍ وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاءُ فَأَصَابَهَا إِعْصَارٌ فِيهِ نَارٌ فَاحْتَرَقَتْ كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Would any of you wish that he would have a garden in which there are date palms and vines, right, underneath which rivers flow, in which there is all sorts of fruit, and there comes to you old age, and your offspring, they are too weak to fend for themselves, and there comes to the garden a whirlwind and a fire which destroys it. Such does Allah make clear to you His ayat, His signs, so that perchance you may reflect and ponder, right? So think about this. You have what we all seek after, you know, that garden that is filled with all those date palms, those vines, all those types of fruit. Underneath it, there's rivers flowing. This is prime real estate. But you have reached old age, and your offspring is too weak to fend for themselves. So you are unable to benefit from that blessing, and you're unable to protect it. And it's the same with your offspring, right? They are weak, they can't fend for themselves, much less the garden, right? So you have this great blessing, and there comes straight a threat in the form of a whirlwind and a fire, and you're unable to do anything to stop it, right? Such that the garden is destroyed. So this is a mathal, another example that presents to us, you know, the similitude of a person who does not give sincerely, right? None of us would like to have a garden and be unable to enjoy it or defend it, right? So this is another ayah to ponder upon. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض ولا تيمموا الخبيث منه تنفقون ولستم بآخذيه إلا أن تغمضوا فيه وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. O you who believe, spend from the good things which you have earned and from what Allah has brought forth for you from the earth. But do not aim to give or spend from the defective therefrom, things that you would not even touch, even with closed eyes. And know that Allah is free of all wants and worthy of all praise. Right, so think about it. There are those who they want to give things that they themselves wouldn't want, defective things. You know, they may have gotten a produce from the land, whether it be corn or mangoes or whatever it is, and they would only want to give to the poor those parts of the produce which they deem to be diseased and not good for sale, not good for consumption. They themselves wouldn't consume it, they wouldn't give it to their family, right? But they're looking to find people to give this to. Allah is saying, don't take that and exclusively give that and expect to get blessings and whatnot and return on investment for this sort of giving, right? You know, it's not saying to give the best of what you have, but don't aim for the defective, which you yourself wouldn't even touch with closed eyes. So if you know to yourself that what you are giving, you yourself know it's defective and you yourself wouldn't even touch it with closed eyes, right? This is not something that you would aim to select and single out for giving to those who are less fortunate. Those, you know, so this is not the type of giving spoken about in the Quran here. So let's take heed to these ayat of Quran that provide guidance on giving. There's many more if you continue to read the Quran, you know, but let's seek to be of those who give sincerely, seeking the pleasure of Allah, and do not follow up our giving with reminders and injury, you know, because such actions can actually cancel out the blessings that we would get from our charity, and we could end up like those people, you know, who are like the rock, right, upon which there's dust and there comes a shower, leaving the rock bare, you know. So we left with nothing, or we like that person who has the garden with all the fruits and whatnot, right? But you are too old to see about it, and your offspring too weak to see about it or enjoy it or anything like that, and there comes a whirlwind and a fire destroying it. You know, we don't want to be like such people. We want to be like those who get the blessing, the 700-fold increase, right? Like the seed of grain, when planted, it grows into a tree bearing 7 ears of corn. On each ear of corn is 100 grains. We want to be like those people, and we want to be like those people who are like the garden, right? When there comes to a downpour, the garden has a double produce. When there's no downpour, the garden is contented. Let's aim to be like such people who give sincerely, so we can get these blessings of Allah, right, and get the pleasure of Allah, you know, inshallah.